report from the Berry Conservation District.
Good morning. Thank you very much. As Commissioner Ring mentioned, my name is Sarah Nelson. I'm the director.
Be muted right now. Yeah, push it again.
Is that better?
Oh,
Okay.
much. Marvelous.
My name is Sarah Nelson. I am the director of the Berry Conservation District, and I'd like to go over some of our accomplishments in 2018 and talk about some of our programs. The numbers that you'll see up on the screen, I'm not going to bore you all with repeating all of those. You have some annual reports available, and you can all read them up on the screen. What I'd really like to do is give everyone a sense for what our programs do in terms of giving back to the county, what the benefit to the residents is. So just an overview of who we are. First of all, we're overseen by a 5-member elected board, and our board members right now are Fred Flower, Bill Soul, Mark Bishop, George Cullers, and Scott Atkinson. We have 5 staff members in the office. They also serve other counties, so they're often rotating. We're not all in there every day. It's myself, the director. We have Ben Savoy, who is our district forester, David Camo, who is our watershed coordinator for the Thornapple River watershed. Fallon Januska is our invasive species coordinator for the BCK SISMA, and Tori Fraley is our MEEP technician. We also work very closely with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and so we have our district conservationist, Kelly Bichong, and also our county's soil conservation technician, Sean Kelly. So they administer the Farm Bill programs. Some upcoming events that you might want to check our website for. Next month, we'll be doing a shoreline symposium that'll be open to lake or streamside residents to learn about lake and stream health. In September, we'll have our Youth Day, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. Then in September, the Thornapple River Watershed Council also does the river cleanup, and so we clean about 60 miles of the Thornapple River every year. On September 14th, we'll be having a natural shoreline workshop out at Charlton Park. And on October 5th, we'll have a forest management field day with the MEEP and forestry assistance programs. So first up, I'd like to talk about our forestry assistance program. And that's the program that's overseen by Ben Savoy, the district forester. So the main purpose of this program is to help private landowners better manage their forest resources. And so it's all voluntary, all free to landowners, and they can call and get a site visit from Ben. He'll come out and walk the woods with them and kind of talk about what their management goals are. Some of the things that we're really trying to steer folks towards is having a management plan written by a professional consulting forester. By having that plan guide activities such as timber harvest and other activities that you might do, timber stand improvement, things like that. And also to help connect landowners with assistance programs. So there are tax incentive programs for forest landowners. There are cost share programs for some of those management techniques. And so Ben serves as sort of the gateway between landowners, professional foresters, and the agency programs. So again, these are some of Ben's accomplishments as far as site visits, acreage, referrals to programs, including the Qualified Forest Program and EQIP, and some of the other things that he did last year. In 2019, so this year, he'll be focusing on the Qualified Forest Program. Also, I'm sorry, I know it's a lot of acronyms. So QFP is Qualified Forest Program. It's a tax incentive program for forest landowners. The MEEP FWH is the Michigan Agriculture Environmental Assurance, thank you. Even I get caught up on them once in a while. Forest, wetland, and habitat system verification, and that's a new verification in the MEEP program, and so that's to just showcase the efforts of forest, wetland, and habitat landowners. and also working on prevention of the spread of oak wilt, which is in Berry County currently, and Asian longhorn beetle, which is not yet in the state of Michigan, and we'd like to keep it that way. So our next program that I'd like to talk about is the Michigan Agricultural Environmental Assurance Program. And our technician, Tori, works on that program. So she also does free site visits for farms. And this can be anything from cropping systems, livestock, homestead. There are all sorts of systems that she works with. Again, it's all voluntary, all completely free. And basically, it helps farmers to meet certain generally accepted agricultural management practices, which they call GAMPs, which is basically the practices that are recommended to be more environmentally friendly and also safe on your farm. So these are the accomplishments that Tori had in 2018, how many assessments that she did and verifications. We're looking forward to working heavily in the forest, wetland, and habitat systems in 2019. And in fact, she has 2 big verifications coming up on the 31st of this month. She will be verifying the Battle Creek Outdoor Education Center and the Berry State Game Area, both in that system. So we're very excited for that. And we would encourage any forest or wetland landowner who would like to make sure they're managing that area in a way that's environmentally friendly and who would like to showcase their accomplishments to give her a call. The BCK SISMA is the Berry Calhoun Kalamazoo Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. So basically, it is a group of organizations, landowners, agencies that are all interested in working together to combat the threat of invasive species in the three counties. And so we do that through a variety of ways. We do education, site visits with landowners, a lot of planning on more strategically how can we assess the spread of these invasives on a large scale, and then once we assess that, how do we address it? And then we also do treatment as well. These are just some of our partners in the SISMA, so as you can see, it's a very robust group. We do have different tiers of priority invasive species, so I'll mention it again later, but I'd love to come back and talk sometime about some of our higher priority species. Some you may not have heard of yet: Japanese knotweed, Phragmites, swallowworts, Chinese yam. So I'd be happy to come back someday and talk more about those. These are some of the SISMA's accomplishments in 2018. They're really quite impressive because, again, it's a large group working together in the 3 counties. In 2019, we would like to look towards more sustainable funding. Up until this point, we have been fully grant funded, and in order to continue to provide these services for landowners, we'd like to come up with something that will last whether or not that grant program exists. We're also working on a prioritization of which treatments, which sites should be treated first, and that has a lot to do with assessing, like I said, the large scale picture. And also survey, treatment, and education. We will continue that. So the next program I'd like to talk about is our Thornapple River Watershed Non-Point Source Pollution Program. And that is overseen by our watershed coordinator, David Camo. It's currently funded by an EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant. And David works in 3 subwatersheds in Berry and Eaton counties right now. And again, he provides a lot of education, so workshops, he does some water festivals, he does stream sampling with local schools. We even have like waders and nets and everything that the kids can use. He just did a water festival in Crandall Park, and we're looking to do one in Berry County next year. And then he also does on-farm visits to assess potential ways to reduce non-point source pollution from farm practices. And when I say non-point source pollution, these are very different from pollution where you can look at like a pipe coming out. You know, this is stuff that comes off of the land and doesn't have one particular source. And so these are things like nutrients. You hear about nitrogen, you hear about phosphorus, you hear about bacteria like E. coli, and also sediment, so erosion. That's all encompassed in this non-point source pollution. And so David works with farmers to cost share practices like grassed waterways, filter strips, cover crops, pasture fencing, and also with homeowners who may be experiencing septic issues. He has a cost share program for septic inspections and replacements in his 3 sub-watersheds. So you can see that this work really, and he's really just getting started on the actual practice implementation, but it has a huge impact on how much of that pollution is going into our river. So from what he's done so far, he's kept 27 tons of sediment out of the Thornapple each year, and we expect those numbers to grow in the next year. These are some photos of the work that David has done. You can see on the lower left hand is some cover crops that were interseeded into standing corn using aerial seeding. And that's something that's not done around here a lot. So we like to bring in new technologies too to help farmers address challenges such as not being able to plant a cover crop in time for it to establish before winter kill. And also there are some photos of some of the septic replacements that he's done.
So the pictures, is that from the field day from last year?
Yes. So in 2019, David will continue to work on the same issues and hopefully see a lot more practice implementation as this will be the 3rd year of his project. Going into the 3rd year, and the first 2 years were more education and outreach based. So the Thornapple River cleanup I mentioned already, that happens usually mid to late September. We clean about 60-ish miles of the river depending on what the needs are and and how much of the river is accessible. And so definitely we get less trash out of the river each year, but there is still a need for this, including, you know, still we pull out tires every year even though there's a free collection. So, Youth Day is a really great free event that we do out at Charlton Park. This is all community-based, so everyone who's there as an exhibitor is a volunteer. Everything that needs to be paid for the event, the food, the rock wall, prizes are all paid for by donations from the community. Basically, kids can come out, families come out, and the kids can try about 3 dozen different outdoor activities. So everything from 22s, skeet shoot, bows, fishing, fly fishing, yoga, hay bale toss, that's a good one. There's just all sorts of stuff. And the idea is that we're trying to get every kid to find something that sparks an interest in them and then bring the whole family in so that we can inspire a lifelong passion for the outdoors in these kids. It's a lot of fun. It'll be September 7th this year. We're hoping to have, last year we had 797 kids, so we're hoping to exceed that and make it the biggest youth day ever, but we'll see how the weather cooperates. And also our wildlife habitat project. So this project will be coming to a close at the end of this year as well. It was a 2-year project to restore fen, prairie, oak savanna, and some oak forest on 3 properties throughout the county. And so that included invasive species removal, some prescribed burns, some plantings, some removal of non-native trees. And so if anyone would like to go see those properties, they are all open to the public, and so just let us know. So I have here some opportunities that I think would be good for local units of government to get involved with the Conservation District and the work that we do. As I mentioned, invasive species management. We did a great survey with the Road Commission. They did a contest a couple years back where they found many infestations of invasive species in the rights-of-way. And these are high-priority invasive species that are actually made worse by mowing. And so we could look at assessing how to deal with those and how to get treatment on those. We do have the capability for treatment. Also, land management planning. I know that a lot of townships or villages own properties and don't necessarily have land management plans for them. So this is an opportunity for any local unit of government in the county to get involved, and we can walk them through the process of writing a land management plan. And also qualified forest program referrals. So you can call us to get more details on this, but at the township level in particular, you tend to know the tax details of your constituents, and there are certain landowners that could benefit from enrollment in the qualified forest program. And so making those folks aware that this program exists and that we can help them enroll if they so choose, it's totally voluntary. I think that that's another opportunity for local units of government to get involved. And I just want to say thank you, as always, for your continued support of the Conservation District. I think that with the support that we get from you all, we're able to provide really great services and programs to the residents of Berry County, and we're very grateful that we have that opportunity. So thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Anybody have anything for Sarah? Ben?
Thank you for your presentation. I have two questions. The first is about emerging threats in terms of invasive species. What can folks do to minimize their impact? What are some common things that we might be doing wrong? And two, what are your goals for the next year or so?
Great questions. Okay, so as far as invasive species go, prevention is key. I think the number one thing that folks can do is educate themselves. Know what you have. And if you have a plant and you think it might be an issue, you can always send us a photo. We would prefer that over, we don't want people transporting potentially hazardous plants, but send us a photo. We can help you identify that. Or you can go on MISIN, that's MISIN.msu.edu. I believe that's the website, or just Google MISIN, MISIN. And you can go through tutorials to learn to identify different invasive species. And so I think that really knowledge is the first step. If anyone has a group that they'd like us to come give a presentation to, we do that as well, and it's totally free. So know what you're working with, and then trying to prevent disturbance in areas where you don't know what's growing there. So if you aren't sure what the plants are, I would find out what they are before you dig or do construction or anything like that. We've had many stories of folks who continued to mow or cut or dig, not knowing what it was they were dealing with. So
Yeah, it just makes the
education.
problem worse.
Yeah, that
Education is
Japanese
key.
knotweed is a vicious creature.
Yeah.
Stuff will go through cement, won't it?
Yeah.
Yep. If it can go through volcano, through cooled lava, then sidewalk is really nothing for it.
And then your goals for the next couple of years?
Goals for the next couple of years. So continuing on with, like I said, the watershed grant is coming to a close. And so we'd like to find additional funding to keep watershed work going in the county. Also working on improving the invasive species, like I said, the sustainable funding for that. And then we are currently trying to put together a road stream crossing inventory for the Coldwater. We already have one for the Thornapple, which helps us prioritize road stream crossings to try to repair and replace for stream health. And so we'd like to put one together for the Coldwater as well, and then start assessing those road stream crossings to see if there are any areas where our priorities line up with those of the county and the road commission. So,
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
yeah.
Anything else? Frank? Okay, please. Sure, thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
I have a
Appreciate you
question.
coming. Dan?
I don't know what the name of it is. It's invading the hemlock trees with the needles. They go into the needle. Have they been able to find an answer to that yet?
So the hemlock woolly adelgid, I believe, is what you're referring to.
It sucks the moisture out of the needles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's found primarily right now around Ottawa County, I think north of Ottawa as well, maybe Muskegon.
County,
So the state has put, maybe over $1 million into treatment for that. So right now what they're trying to do is find as much of it as they can, which includes educating people so that people know how to report it and identify and report it. And then they are actually treating it. So luckily it's in a restricted area, it's only a few counties, and there is a treatment for it. So if they are aggressive enough with the treatment, I think there's a great deal of hope that they might be able to get rid of it, yeah.
Anything else for Sarah? I know Outdoor Youth Day is fantastic. I don't think I've missed one. I think I've been there in some part or fashion for every single one. And it's fantastic to see these kids enjoy the outdoors. So I think every year we've grown, and it may every year be bigger than the last. So with that, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from Mr. Haney.